recent legislation done or passed by our Congress. So the long title of the law is Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act. Medyo mahaba talaga, no? Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act. The numerical title is Republic Act 11032. 11032. It was signed into law on May 28, 2018. Okay, so bago talaga. And the implementing rules were actually signed on July 17, 2019. So July 17, 2019, yung implementing rules, so more than a year later. So this particular law, okay, amended RA 9485, which was otherwise known before as the Anti-Red Tape Act of 2007. Okay? So, inamend lang po. Ibig sabihin, yung mga compatible provisions naman po ay they remain to exist under the ARTA, okay? Yung Republic Act 9485. Pero yung mga incompatible provisions, yung po yung mga inamend, natanggal, and was replaced by the provisions of this new law. The creation of this law, Ease of Doing Business in the Philippines, was considered as a welcome relief because the enforcement and the application of which is expected to diminish the number of complaints on delayed government transactions para mapabilis yung pag-render po ng government service. Through this law, the ease of doing business will now be simpler as a result of more improved systems and procedures of both national and local government services. This is expected, it is expected, that by virtue of this law, it will significantly reduce the processing time for permits, transactions, and applications. Okay, so yan yung preview natin as to how relevant this new legislation is and why was there a need for you to study this and why it was included maybe by yung ating Board of Accountancy doon po sa syllabus ng inyong SIPALE. So moving on, what you need to know about the law for purposes of your SIPALE examinations, itong tatlong bagay na ito. Okay, describe the coverage and the definition of terms, describe the coverage of the law and definition of terms, identify and apply the procedure in accessing government services, and automatic approval or extension of permits and licenses. Understand and describe the different streamlined procedures for the issuance of local business license and permit. So technically, yung procedures po natin now. Okay? So procedures would involve discussion on for how long, what do we need to submit, okay? How should it be processed? Mga ganang katanungan po ang sinasagot. So moving on. So this is the law in a nutshell. Okay, so take a look at the relevant provisions of this new legislation at ano po yung mga laman ng batas, okay, that is sought to be enforced. Okay, so all of this is actually for purposes of us attaining the policy of the state. Okay, so ano po ba yung polisiya ng ating estado? The act, okay, this act, Republic Act 11032, declares that it is the policy of the state to promote the integrity, accountability, proper management of public affairs and public property, as well as to establish effective practices aimed at efficient turnaround of the delivery of government services and the prevention of graft and corruption in the government. Towards this end, the state shall maintain honesty and responsibility among its public officials and employees, and shall take appropriate measures to promote transparency in transacting with the public. Okay, so all of this that are contained in the law, as you can see here, are all for the purpose of attaining this goal, the state policy. So let's just take a look at the answer to this question. Why was the law passed? Okay, so the law was passed to encourage competitiveness and to improve the overall business environment. So the amendment by virtue of this Republic Act 11032 to the 2007 legislation, they are aimed at providing the public with quality government service as quickly as possible, while substantially reducing expenses, inconvenience, and wasted time. Okay, so broadly speaking, Republic Act 11032 requires government agencies to streamline business registration and compliance procedures. Okay, so the long and short of it, itong mga procedures na nakikita nyo dito, is all geared towards streamlining business registration and compliance procedures. Okay, so coverage. The law covers all government offices and agencies, sabi dito, all government offices and agencies. So it would include government-owned and controlled corporations or GOCCs, other government instrumentalities, whether located in the Philippines or not, local government units, cities, provinces, municipalities, barangays, national government agencies. Okay, sila po yung covered ng batas. They are supposed to apply to enforce the law. Section 3 po ang ating basis. So who are excluded? Hindi po kasama dito. Hindi po covered ng application ng batas. So those performing judicial, quasi-judicial, and legislative functions. But of course, yung mga respective frontline services po ng ating judiciary, quasi-judicial bodies, legislative functions, yung mga nasa frontline, okay, they are included as they were under Republic Act, under Section 3 of the law that was amended by Ease of Doing Business. Okay, yung mga frontline services po ng mga excluded na bodies natin, they are still covered by the law. Okay, so sino ang hindi kasama sa coverage? Judicial, quasi-judicial, legislative. So, yung legislative, Kongreso. Of course, yung courts natin. Quasi-judicial bodies, those that are also performing, okay, akin to, okay, the functions of the court. Yan. So, NLRC is one, okay, yung sa quasi-judicial bodies natin. Moving on, let's take a look at another slide. So, ito po yung body of law natin if you are to talk about ease of doing business. We have the law on the matter. We have the implementing rules and regulations. And to further enforce yung implementing rules and regulations para magkaroon ng interconnectedness ng mga covered institutions or covered bodies, yung mga covered a while back na in-enumerate natin, we actually enter into Memorandum of Agreements. Ito yung MOA na to. Okay? Advantages of the law, why there should be an ease of doing business law. Okay? Because it benefits the business sector, sabi dito. Whether starting a business or running a business, the issuance of business permits and licenses must be simple, speedy, and streamlined in all government agencies. Tatlong S, simple, speedy, streamlined. Okay? For the citizens, okay, transacting with the government should be hassle-free. The law prescribes processing time. If documents are complete and in order, it should be easier and faster to get passport, driver's license, birth certificate, and BI clearance, etc. Okay? So, technically, you assess yung government functions natin. When was the last time that you fell in line to get this particular government issuances? I think the last time that I transacted was with Philippine Statistics Office. At medyo mabilis nga naman, no? It didn't even take what? Okay, a half a day. Okay, it just took me about 1 hour and a half. Okay, tapos na kaagad. Yan po. What else? Sabi dito, for public employees and officials, what's the benefit? Okay, what's the obligation that imposed on these public officials, public employees? Okay, from our Constitution, it says there, public service is a public trust. Government personnel are expected to deliver timely and efficient government service and must be held accountable. They must demonstrate integrity at all times. So the basis is actually Article 12, Section 27 of the 1987 Constitution. Okay, so pinaraphrase po dito, pero how was it worded sa Constitution natin? Sabi doon, the state shall maintain honesty and integrity in the public service and shall take positive and effective measures against graft and corruption. Very clear. Okay? So dito papasok yung usaping yung terminology na red tape. What is red tape? Okay? Red tape refers to the rigid or mechanical adherence to bureaucratic rules and regulations, especially those involving unnecessary paperwork. It involves government procedures which are oppressively complex and time-consuming. So any regulation, red tape can also refer to any regulation, rule, or administrative procedure or system that is ineffective or detrimental in achieving its intended objectives. And as a result, procedures now produce low and suboptimal and undesirable social outcomes. So red tape. Okay, so red tape is technically a negative term. So that is something that is sought to be erased, eradicated by the passage of the Ease of Doing Business law. Avoid red tape. Okay, let's now take a look at some of the salient features of the law. At ang una dito na pine-present natin is what we call as the zero contact policy. Zero contact policy. So what's the general rule? Kaya ang general rule natin under this law is that no contact in any manner with any requesting party concerning an application or request shall be allowed. No physical contact. Walang communication. Except, ano pa exception? Okay, number 1, during preliminary assessment of the request, and number 2, during the evaluation of sufficiency of submitted requirements. Okay? So, pag hindi siya pasok dito sa preliminary assessment at submission ng required requirements, then technically dapat no contact already kasi nasa loob na yan, ipaprocess na lang dapat yan. Okay? So again, the general rule is no government office or employee shall have any contact with the applicant or the requesting party unless extremely necessary. At yung extremely necessary, yung exceptions nating dalawa, preliminary assessment at during the evaluation ng sufficiency of the submitted requirements. Okay, kunyari nga, no? Now we have already submitted the requirements. So the next thing to talk about will be acceptance of application or request. Yung pagtanggap, no? Acceptance of the application or the request. So all offices, all officers or employees, they are required to accept written applications, requests, and documents or both submitted by applicants or the requesting parties. Okay, tanggapin nila. Okay, pag wala namang problema after the preliminary assessment and the evaluation. The receiving officer or the employee shall then perform a preliminary assessment on the application or the request submitted and immediately inform the applicant or the requesting party of the deficiency in the requirement submitted. The deficiency, if there be, shall be limited to those enumerated in the Citizens Charter. Sabihin ka agad, okay? So, hindi pwedeng collect, tapos, syempre, makapal na yung kinolekta na hindi naman binigyan ka agad ng feedback yung ating applicant o yung requesting party as to the sufficiency or the completeness, nung kanyang sinubmit, no? Okay. So, zero contact policy. Next salient feature. Let's take a look at this. Okay. So, the law is aimed at making the local government units or yung mga covered na bodies natin a while back under Section 3 to perform better by making government transactions faster and cutting red tape. No? Okay. So, the law will cover all government transactions as we have been mentioning a while back. Okay. And to include, sabi nga natin, yung mga frontline service officers or employees ng mga excluded, even ng mga excluded na bodies. Okay. So the law was introduced to simplify the requirements and to streamline procedures that will spare the people from intolerable waiting time and long lines in the front line government agencies. But then again, you pause for a while and then think about what really is happening. This is what the law says, but in reality, nabawasan pa talaga. Okay, yung haba ng pila. Okay, so, let me just continue. Okay, the law requires government agencies to act on application within 3 working days for simple transactions. Okay, to act on applications or requests within 7 working days for complex ones, and to act on the applications or requests within 20 working days for the highly technical transactions. Okay? Yan po yung significance ng 3720 dito sa slide na nakikita ninyo. So all applications or requests shall be acted upon within the prescribed processing time stated in the Citizens Charter. The maximum time may be extended only once for the same number of days. So pag kailangan i-extend, siguro dahil bagyo, okay, ganitong period pa rin po yung extension na dapat ibigay. Okay? Hindi dapat yan lalampas. So the longest, I think, will be this one. Pag 20, extend mo yan once, 20 plus 20, 40. Yan na dapat yung longest. Yeah? Okay. So if the application is not processed within the standard processing time of 3, 7, or 20 working days, or if it is not acted, okay, without the required extension, hindi siya enact on within the required extension, okay, yung extended time, then the government official or the employee concerned will already be subjected to prosecution. The law clearly says that failure to act on the application within the standard processing time is already a clear violation. Okay? Kung may habol tayo sa ating mga frontliners sa mga government agencies na ating pinipilahan. Appropriate working schedule shall be adopted to ensure that applicants or requesting parties within the government office premises during the official working hours are attended to and served during lunch break and after regular working hours. Okay? So, minsan may naglalagay na sila kagad ng cut-off time hanggang ganito oras kasi na-assess nila yung haba ng pila, no? Yan. At of course, we have government agents now that would also say that there is no lunch break kasi inayos nila yung schedule nila in such a way that yung breaks ng mga tao ay hindi sabay-sabay. Okay? That's one way of streamlining also the procedures and making it easier for the general public. Moving on, let us recap that important slide on the prescribed processing time. Okay? Ito po yung mga prescribed processing time as you can see. So the next question siguro that is now at the back of your mind would be, Ma'am, what do you mean by simple transactions? Okay, so simple transactions would refer to the requests or applications submitted by clients of a government office or agency, which only require ministerial actions on the part of the public officer or the employee, or that which present only inconsequential issues for the resolution by an officer or employee of said government office. So, ministerial lang, kung merong mga simple issue na kailangan i-solve, very simple at that, no? Okay. So, what may be examples of simple transactions? Makikita niyo dito, pagpasok nyo sa isang premise ng isang government agency, sa labas nga nakapaskil yung Citizens Charter, na-identify na nila what they actually consider as simple transactions, as complex or as highly technical. Okay? So, balikan natin kasi we've defined simple transactions. What about complex transactions? What are complex transactions? So, complex transactions would refer to requests or applications that are submitted by clients of a government office which necessitate the use of discretion in the resolution of complicated issues, okay, by an officer or employee of said government office, such transaction to be determined by the office concerned. Okay, so it requires discretion, okay, on complicated issues. What about highly technical applications? Why 20 working days? So highly technical applications would include applications which would require the use of technical knowledge, specialized skills, and or training in the processing and or evaluation thereof. So highly technical applications. And 3, 7, 20. You don't see 5, no? Okay. If it would be extendable only 1, so yung 3 plus 3 is 6, 7 plus 7 is 14, 20 plus 20 will be 40. Citizens Charter. You heard me mention this a while back. So what is a Citizens Charter? So a Citizens Charter is an official document, a service standard, or a pledge that communicates information on the services provided by the concerned government agency to the public. It describes the step-by-step procedure for availing a particular service and the guaranteed performance level that they may expect for that service. Covered entities are required by law to pass a citizens charter, which is a comprehensive and uniform checklist of the requirements for each type of application before said government agency. The charter provides for the persons responsible for each step of the application or request, the maximum time to conclude the process, the documents to be presented by the applicant or the requesting party, the amount of the fees, and the procedure for filing complaints. Yan po si Citizens Charter or ang Citizens Charter. Automatic approval. Ano po itong automatic approval na to? So, if an application or a request is not acted upon, hindi siya in-approve, hindi din naman siya disapprove within the prescribed processing time, okay, the same shall be deemed approved, provided all required documents have been submitted and the applicable fees have been paid. So, bago natin i-apply yung automatic approval, and siya unang action, non-action, during the prescribed period, okay, kailangan natin i-prove na when we submitted as the applicant or the requesting party, lahat naman po ay kompleto ng aming sinubmit. Okay? And upon acceptance, they did the preliminary assessment and evaluation, tinanggap naman po na walang sinabing kakulangan. Diba? Yan po. What about if the action? May action naman po, denial. Okay? Denial of the application or the request. What is the rule? The denial of the application should be explained in writing, stating the name of the person who denied the request or the application and the grounds upon which the denial is based. So, hindi pwedeng deny lang. Okay? Dapat sabihin, it should be done in writing, okay, who denied, for what reasons, okay, was the application or the request denied. Take note of this, please, so that you know also your rights when dealing with government agencies or government offices and the like. Still on the law, salient features tayo. Okay? So, the law also mandates the adoption of a unified application form for local tax and building clearances and sanitary and zoning clearances, among others. A single or a unified business application form shall be used in the processing applications for business permits, renewals, which shall consolidate all the information required for local taxes, building clearances, sanitary permit, and etc. Similarly, other local clearances such as sanitary permits, environmental and agricultural clearances, that shall be issued together with the business permit. Yeah, all of this will be easier if we have the other salient feature in a while we call as the one-stop shop. Okay? Technically, pag pupunta ka sa mga one-stop shop, tatanungin na kaagad sa unang palang procedure, titingnan, ano ba lahat yung mga babayaran mo? Para minsanan na, di ba? Yung effort, hindi yung pabalik-balik ka. Okay. So, there is also a move to transition to automation under the provisions of the law. Transition to automation. So, within 3 years, so from 2018 na naging effective yung law, within 3 years, so that will be in 2021, mid of 2021, the expectation. Okay, the DICT, Department of Information and DICT, okay, Communications, okay, shall, in coordination with the concerned government offices or agencies, so again, connected po yung mga functions nila, automate business-related transactions for better efficiency of services. So, automation po. Lahat dapat mid of 2021 dapat automated na, sabi sa batas. Let's try to recap some fundamental salient features before proceeding with others. Okay, so streamlined procedures for the issuance of local business licenses, clearances, permits, or authorizations. Mayroon tayong sinasabing unified business application form. Meron tayong automation of business permits and licenses for the local government units. We have the establishment of business one-stop shops or BOS. Barangay clearances and permits are now issued at the city or municipality para hindi ka napapagod ng barangay ka muna, kukuha ka muna ng clearance bago ka pumunta sa city o sa munisipyo para kumuha ng sedula. Dapat minsanan na nasa one-stop shop na lahat. Okay? Next, we have the automation of business permits and licenses. So, ito po yung mga functions nila. Okay, so streamline procedures for the issuance of local business licenses, clearances, permits, or authorizations. We have the establishment of business one-stop shops or BOS. Barangay clearances and permits are now issued at the city or municipality para hindi ka napapagod ng barangay ka muna, kukuha ka muna ng clearance bago ka pumunta sa city o sa munisipyo para kumuha ng sedula. Dapat minsanan na nasa one-stop shop na lahat. Okay? Kasi nabanggit natin si boss, establishment of a business one-stop shop. So what is this? One-stop shops will be established in every city or town and LGUs. Okay, and this is encouraged under the law to automate the permit and licensing permit and license processing systems. So, an electric business one-stop shop, dapat an electronic business one-stop shop. So, parang e-boss dapat yan, hindi lang boss, no? Shall be established within the negosyo center of each city or municipality to receive and to process the application for business license, clearance, etc. Okay? All government offices and agencies, they are required to post the respective citizens charter at the most conspicuous place in their offices, as well as on their websites. Among the information, as we have said, na dapat kasama sa citizens charter will be, of course, yung mga kailangan nilang dalhin pag ang kanilang gusto o ninanais na gawin ay to avail of the services of the electronic boss, okay, CA boss. And Central Business Portal under Section 13 of the law. So what is the CBP? Central Business Portal. It's a central system to receive applications and to capture application data involving business-related transactions, including primary and secondary licenses, business clearances, permits, or authorizations issued by the local government units. They should issue rules, and guidelines on the establishment and operation and maintenance of the Central Business Portal and the use of electronic signatures. The DICT is mandated to implement an interconnectivity infrastructure development program for interconnectivity between and among national government agencies and local government units. Okay, ito din yung laman actually ng ating BAHO 2, okay, when under the Duterte government during this COVID pandemic period. When they issued it, ang laman nun is dapat gawing mas madali sa mga LGUs yung pagproseso ng ito, mga infrastructure development program for purposes of interconnectivity. Okay? So, hindi na dapat yan madaming hinihinging mga requirements. Okay? Let us cut down, okay, the procedures, sabi nga doon sa BAHO number 2. Philippine Business Data Bank, PBD. What is the Philippine Business Data Bank? It shall provide access to data and information of registered business entities for purposes of verifying the validity, the existence of, and other relevant information pertaining to business entities. Okay, all concerned national government agencies and local government units to link their own database to the system. Periodically submit updates relevant to the information registered with them, and that the NGAs, national government agencies, and local government units shall not require the same documents already provided to the local government departments in connection with other business-related licenses. Okay, the last bullet, very important. Minsan kasi, okay, may mga tatamad-tamad na mag-open ng kanilang system. Tapos magre-require pa ng additional requirements when in fact you have previously submitted it. Okay, so the city of Baguio is not this. Okay, my experience in actually processing yung payment ng mga real property taxes, hindi na gaya dati na dapat lagi dala mo yung folder. Okay? Because what they need only will be the most recent na form, most recent siguro na payment mo, and they can easily access your records right away. Okay? Again, saan mo makikita? Philippine Business Data Bank. Yan. To recap, the CBP and the PBD. Okay? So take a look at what they are. You're going to distinguish one from the other. Okay? Next, salient feature. Okay. Ito pala. Streamline procedures for securing fire clearances and certificates. Bureau of Fire Protection officials and employees are not allowed to sell, offer, or recommend specific brands of fire extinguishers and other fire safety equipment. Take note of this. Minsan may mga nagbabahay-bahay tapos sabi nila they are from the BFP. Okay, wala po silang right to engage in these activities. issuance of the fire safety evaluation clearance, fire safety inspection clearance, and certificate of fire incident. Okay, they are now streamlined. Okay, the Bureau of Fire Protection shall now be co-located in the business one-stop shop. Okay, so if you are to take a look, when you have that experience in availing of the services of BOSS, pansinin nyo yung mga institutions na nasa loob ng center. Okay? And indeed, you will always see their Bureau of Fire Protection. Okay? Kasama sila doon. Interconnectivity infrastructure development. Sabi dito, it should be expedited. Okay? Lalo na sa mga kapanahunan ngayon, no? When we are all dependent on our interconnectivity. Yan. Another salient feature of the law, okay? Maximum of 3 signatories for applications for licenses, clearances, permits, certifications, and authorizations. Maximum po. Okay. The draft actually required 3 to 5, no? Pero the final version of the law and the implementing rules and regulations, the implementing rules and regulations would require maximum 3. Yan. Recognition of electronic signatures. Again, connect this with the 2000 legislation on electronic commerce. Reiteration lang po ito ng ating Electronic Commerce Act on the recognition of electronic signatures. So electronic signatures will also be recognized, under to avoid improprieties. So electronic versions even. Covered agencies and offices are required to develop electronic versions of licenses, clearances, permits, certifications, or authorizations. So these electronic versions shall have the same level of authority as hard copies and may be printed by the applicants or the requesting parties. Okay? So recognition of electronic signatures and availability of electronic versions. Okay, now we talk about the creation of what we call as the Anti-Red Tape Authority, ARTA. ARTA, okay? So the ARTA, Anti-Red Tape Authority, shall be created and organized within 6 months from the effectivity of the Act. And indeed, we have an ARTA. It shall be attached to the Office of the President and headed by a Director General to be appointed by the President. It shall be chaired by the Secretary of the DTI and shall be the policy and the advisory body of the ARTA. So, ARTA shall have the following powers and functions. Among others, ano pa yung powers and functions niya? To implement and to oversee a national policy on anti-red tape and ease of doing business. To implement initiatives to improve the ease of doing business ranking of the country. To monitor and to evaluate the compliance of covered government offices and agencies, and to issue notice of warning to erring or non-complying government officials and employees. To initiate investigation motu proprio on its own or upon receipt of a complaint, to refer the same yung complaint to the appropriate agency or to file cases for violations of the Ease of Doing Business Act. Okay. Assist complainants in filing necessary cases. Okay. The authority is also there so that they should formulate, as you have mentioned, policies and programs that will continuously enhance and improve the country's competitiveness and the ease of doing business. Yan ang function ni ARTA. Let's now take a look at the composition, as even though we have mentioned it a while back. Headed, chaired by a Director General with the rank of a Secretary. Meron siyang 3 Deputy Director Generals. Bakit 3? Isa for legal, isa for operations, isa for administration and finance. The ARTA is an attached agency to the Office of the President. Yung tenure at employment status nila, the Director General is appointed and co-terminus. They serve at the pleasure of the President. The Deputy Director Generals, they are appointed by the President of the Philippines, and the Deputy Director Generals are career officials with a rank equivalent to Undersecretary. So, hindi sila basta-basta naalis kasi career officials yan. Okay? But they can be transferred to other offices, if they're being So after the ARSA, we have here the Advisory Council. Ito yung Ease of Doing Business or the Anti-Red Tape Advisory Council. Okay, they shall be consisting of 7 persons, and they are policy and advisory. They are a policy and advisory body. So sino po yung 7 persons? Tingnan natin. Okay, ito pong mga yan. So the chairperson of the council will be the secretary of the DTI, the vice chairperson, the director general of the ARTA. Members will consist of the secretaries of DICT, DILG, Department of Finance, and 2 representatives from the private sector. So 5, 6, 7. So the National Competitiveness Council will be renamed and reorganized as Ease of Doing Business and Anti-Red Tape Advisory Council will be the policy and advisory body of the authority. Take note again that this council, the advisory council, is different from the ARTA. Okay? Yung Director General nga ng ARTA ay isa pang miyembro ng 7-member board na ito. Okay? 7-member body. We have this, what we call as a report card survey. Report card survey. All agencies providing government services shall be subjected to a report card survey. The report card survey shall be initiated by the authority in coordination with the Commission on Civil Service and the Philippine Statistics Authority. Okay? The report card service shall be used to obtain feedback on how provisions in the Citizens Charter and the Act of Doing Business are being followed and how the agency is performing. The information and/or estimates of hidden costs incurred by applicants or requesting parties to access government services. The result of the survey shall become the basis for the grant of awards, recognition, and/or incentives for excellent delivery of services in all government agencies. Minsan ito din nga yung nagiging basis kung sila ibibigyan ng bonus, additional bonus at the end of the year, performance bonus. Okay. Minsan nga, pagalingan yung mga different government agencies and bureaus nga and government agencies and offices natin. Okay, dapat lagi gusto nila yung kanilang report card survey ay maganda. Okay? Kasi nga, nakadepende dito yung budget minsan, okay, yung anong pwedeng i-grant, okay, sa mga empleyado. Let's move on to the next slide. And of course, pag-usapan naman natin ngayon under Section 21, violations and who may be liable for such violations. Okay, so we have 8 here listed. Okay, number 1, the refusal to accept application or request with complete requirements, as we have mentioned a while back. Okay, and another, imposition of additional requirements other than those listed in the Citizens Charter. Again, ang limit lang po niya ay kung anong nakasulat sa Citizens Charter. Pag humingi pa yan ng dagdag, violation na po yan. Imposition of additional costs that are not reflected in the Citizens Charter. Mag-isip-isip na. Pag hindi siya kasama at hinihingi kayo, baka iba na to. Okay? Another violation, failure to give the application or requesting party a written notice on the disapproval of an application or request. Failure to render government services within the prescribed processing time on any application or request without due cause. Okay? Pabayaan. Kung hindi ka pabayaan yan, simpleng talagang inefficiency. Number 6, the failure to attend to applicants or requesting parties who are within the premises of the office or your agency concerned prior to the end of the official working hours and during lunch break. Okay? Dinadaan-daanan na lang na hindi man lang i-acknowledge yung presence ng mga taong ito within the premises of the government agency or office. Also violation. Okay? Failure or the refusal to issue official receipts. Okay? Failure or refusal to issue official receipts. Come to think of it, I am reminded of a more recent situation whereby, okay, ang nangyari dito ay nag-issue naman ng receipt, no? Ang problema ay, okay, humingi ulit the following day ng dagdag kasi mali palang transaction yung binayaran niya the previous day. So, nag-issue din ulit ng official receipt. Pero nung nag-complain yung ating private citizen, no? Okay, kasi dalawang beses na hiningan nga at dalawang beses binigyan ng official receipt for one and the same transaction purpose. Okay? Kung sakali mang iba dapat yung kanyang transaction na pinasok, pwede naman sanang i-reclassify yung una niyang bayad. The problem is that yung frontliner would not issue a refund. Okay? The problem is daw, naka-issue na daw ng receipt. So, mahirap daw i-refund. Okay? And of course, the question that lingers to our mind is that, bakit naman unfair, no? Ba't ganun ang sagot? Ganun na ba kamahal ang isang resibo? Okay? Could it not have been reclassified? Hindi pwede naman mag-refund, no? Okay? So, is it under the violation of ease of doing business? And another, okay, not under the ease of doing of business this time, but of course, okay, it is a matter that is also subject to a viable complaint. Number 8, ito, tingnan natin. Fixing and or collusion with fixers in consideration of economic and or other gain or advantage. That too is a violation. Okay? So, saan po natin dapat to, okay, nabanggit natin yung fixer. Let's try to give a definition of who a fixer is. A fixer is any individual, whether or not officially involved in the operation of a government office or agency, who has access to people working therein, and whether or not, in collusion with them, facilitates speedy completion of transaction for pecuniary gain or any other advantage or consideration. Okay? So, sabi, mag-ingat kayo sa fixers, no? Because when you collude, okay, you work with fixers. Okay, this is a violation of this special law. Yan. Saan po natin ipa-file if meron tayong action which are based on this particular enumeration? So, ang jurisdiction po dito, or the authority or the office or the forum who has the authority to decide on these matters, okay, who is vested in the Civil Service Commission or the Office of the Ombudsman as determined by appropriate laws. So, nasa salary grade po yan. Okay? So, civil service, kung meron tayong particular salary grade level, na dapat sa Office of the Ombudsman na. Okay? So, these are the violations. Take note of them. So, when dealing with government offices, you know now, okay, at the first instance, whether or not may violation na nangyayari. Moving on. So, if there is violation for that matter, ano po yung penalties? Okay? So, here is an attempt, okay, for us to take a look at the imposable penalties under the law. So, sabi dito, we have this thing as a two-strike policy. A two-strike policy for government officials and employees found in violation of ease of doing business and, okay, ito pang, iba pang special law. Okay, 6 months, first offense, administrative liability with 6 months suspension, except for fixing or collusion with fixers where the revised penal code provision shall apply. Okay, sa second offense, administrative and criminal liability. Saan papasok ang criminal liability? Sa may second offense. So, ito pa po yung ibang possible na consequences. Dismissal from the service. Okay, na-dismiss ka na nga sa serbisyo. May perpetual disqualification ka pa from holding a public office. Perpetual po ito. Okay. Forfeiture of retirement benefits. Ito ang mahirap. Okay. Imprisonment. Ito yung criminal liability of 1 year, 6 years, or a fine of not less than, okay, or naman po ito, no? Fine of not less than 500,000 but not more than 2 million. So any person who commits any such act, as but not limited to bribery, extortion, or malicious solicitation of favor, shall be criminally liable and shall be punished under the revised penal code and other special laws. Note of this. So yung imposable penalty then would be that pertaining to the imposable penalty under the revised penal code on bribery, extortion, or malicious solicitation. So, to recap, sabi dito, erring government officials and employees shall be subject to penalties which, mabigat dito, no, would include perpetual disqualification from holding office, yung forfeiture po dyan, of retirement benefits, fines ranging from 500,000 to 2 million, and imprisonment of 1 to 6 years. Criminal liability again, it would now be imposed or it will be incurred by those who commit bribery, extortion, or when violation was done deliberately and maliciously, solicit favor in cash or in kind. So pag hindi naman po siya papasok po dito sa enumeration natin, then walang criminal liability, okay, na mai-impose. Okay, so two-strike policy. So, okay, we're close to the end. Bigyan natin kayo ng listahan ng mga government agencies who have signed as signatories to the various memorandum of agreements, okay, with the government, of course. So, again, i-relate nyo po ito doon sa covered ng ating special law under Section 3. Government offices and agencies, local government units, okay, GOCCs, yan. Okay. Whether they be located in the Philippines or abroad, okay, provided that they give services, okay, for the government, representing the government, they may cover business or non-business related transactions. And so doon sa Enhanced Memorandum of Agreement, okay, on ease of doing business na pinirmahan po ng mga various agencies na may examples tayo dito sa slide na ito. Okay? When they inked the Memorandum of Agreement, it is prayed that the concerned government offices and agencies will efficiently and swiftly resolve issues raised by investors to avoid delays in the processing of business registrations, permits, licenses, among others, okay, in line with the administration's goal to cut red tape and make the Philippines more attractive to investors. So, masasabi din natin na ease of doing business din natin is a part of that body of laws that is also discussing or giving protection to investors in the Philippines. Okay? So, to end, of course, the discussion,